Good afternoon or good morning to everyone. I was going to post this on my page only to realize that it was too long. So I'm just going to read it to you guys because I know I have students who could not make the sentencing on yesterday but who follow this page, and I want them to hear this message. So those of you who have been following this page, you know that I was a former teacher. You know, in 2021, the first of 6 of my students was murdered in New Orleans. I attended the trial last month of the young men who were accused of murdering Hassan. Sat through the trial, and yesterday they were sentenced, and I gave an impact statement. Good morning, everybody. Let me know that y'all can hear me. Tell me where you're watching from. So I'm gonna read this letter to y'all. I'm not gonna cry. I read the following statement before the defendants yesterday. State of Louisiana versus Trenton Tatum, Elijah Augustus, and Tyron Edwards. Your Honor and Counsel, the words I'm about to share are not meant to change anyone's mind here because I doubt that anything could. Much like Hassan on the first day we met, you do not know me nor I you. But know the following statement is not one for you to find redemption, nor will it be a plea for you to grasp the full weight of what you have done. It's not for you at all, really. It is for Hassan and his family, his mom and dad, his sisters, his cousins, his aunts, his classmates, his friends. It's for me, my kids, the kids that you could have had but will never know, and those you love who will. It is for every person fighting against a system that makes tragedies like this so common when it values punishment over prevention. And it is for those who have resolved in this very wicked world not to let actions like yours break us of our ability to still see the good worth fighting for in it. I want you to hear Hassan's voice, the young man that you thought you silenced, the light you thought you snuffed out the night that you fired over 30 rounds at him while he was running away unarmed. This is what he wrote to me on May 20th of 2019 in an assignment titled, I Wish My Teacher Knew. To Miss Garcia, when I first came to your class, Miss G, I can't lie. I thought it was going to be hell. But through the year, everybody started to realize you were a pretty cool teacher. Me personally, I think you're an amazing, intelligent, well-spoken teacher. You have a lot to offer, and if someone doesn't see it, they're blind to a blessing that's before their eyes. As you were teaching, you made me feel like I was a part of the lesson. Then one day I needed space and you gave it to me. I really appreciate everything you do for us as students because in life we don't always get exposed to the reality of things, but you were a real eye-opener for life. My future has a path, and I can always think back of a time when you gave a relatable situation. The time I have been in your presence, I have not only become a better student, but you gave me a mindset in growing up to be a better man. I truly think you should run for office. You have a message that is beneficial to the health of our economy, and I feel like you could achieve that sense of peace. Well, Ms. G, all I can say is thanks for everything. And I know you will succeed in any given situation because you are a rebel. You stand out. That's what makes you Miss Garcia. Sincerely, Hassan Veal. I kept every letter my students ever wrote to me. And I started that assignment about halfway through my 10-year teaching career in the same 4-mile radius of Algiers that raised me. The same where I met Hassan in 2018 while teaching history at the New Orleans Military and Maritime Academy. He was one of my top cadets. Not because he didn't give me the blues like only Hassan could, but because coming from where I come from, I already knew that the rhythm and blues go hand in hand, and I was going to be there for it all. But teaching wasn't my original dream. As a child, I often imagined myself becoming an attorney following in my father's footsteps. But I had a rebellious youth and a genuine problem with authority that I still harbor to this day. So for a long while, I had convinced myself that who I was and where I came from meant that I was unworthy of that dream. Teaching changed that. Kids specifically like Hassan Veal, changed that. The bond I formed with my students became the thing that got me out of bed in the morning. And I'm woman enough to admit that I would not be the woman standing before you today if it were not for teachers who made that very same bond with me. So, I dedicated myself to creating a space where my students could be children. They could think critically and speak freely and grow into themselves without judgment. This essay was merely a part of that space, a way for my students to tell me their truth, not the stories that others had told me about them, not my assumptions, but their truth. And Hassan's letter, it was his truth. It embodied his spirit, which was selfless. In the first line, he was the class clown, joking about how he thought my class would be held. And to be fair, it was a fair assumption. They all wanted to be there until they got there and wasn't nothing but space, time, and opportunity to put in work. But beneath the jokes came the heart, the uplifting words, the heartfelt gratitude, the wisdom far beyond his years. He took that time to thank me. He took that time to thank me as if he did not know that kids like him taught me more about the things that really mattered in life than I could have ever taught them about history. And when he told me to run for office, I laughed, because who in their right mind would want to do that, especially now? But I knew what he meant. I knew what he meant. It wasn't about politics, at least not for me. It was about purpose. It was about living the principles I maybe naively and self-righteously at times tried to instill in them. Not just as inspirational quotes and tattoos, but as a lifestyle, because from personal experience, you cannot put a price tag on the peace of mind of not having people come for your head. But the part of his letter that stays with me the most is I needed space, and you gave that to me. Because a good teacher always wonders if their students know that there will always be that safe space for them with them, come hell or high water. This letter told me that Hassan knew that he was loved. And I take comfort every time I think of that line. He could have talked about anything, and he chose to spend his time telling me how much he believed that one person, me, can make a difference. What a dream forgotten in today's time, but it makes my heart smile to know that the world hadn't robbed him of that innocence. He saw something in me that I had not fully seen in myself, but it was the following year, while I often protested alone for the men left behind in the Hard Rock Hotel, that I would see Hassan daily, and he would echo his words back to me again, "You're a rebel, Miss G." And that's when he told me again, leave the classroom, go to law school, run for office. So I did. But Hassan will not see me graduate from law school in 100 days in May. He will not be sitting there congratulating me as I walk across the stage, because the night of my law school orientation, August 5th, 2021, the very night I took the first step towards the dream once so far away, and he encouraged me to step towards, you murdered him for nothing. I spent my life deeply entrenched in the legal system one way or another, and the irony that most of my law school experience has been fighting to restore the human and civil rights to formerly and currently incarcerated individuals, people like you are now, is not lost on me. But I have also spent a great deal of time reflecting on what justice looks like, and while I still work daily to paint the full picture after watching this trial, I am sure of a few things more than I did when I came in. I have learned that despite my respect for the individuals here and their dedication to the law, for myself, I do not envy them. I do not want to be the defense attorney burdened by the weight of defending actions I know to be indefensible, or worse, the unprovable innocent, even if it is a necessary part of justice. I would not want to be the prosecutor confronting the constant wickedness of humanity, where the pursuit of justice often feels like you're chasing shadows. And I would not want to be a judge, even the fairest one, casting away lies into a system that I fundamentally believe creates criminals only to punish them. Because I have witnessed this system firsthand strip communities of resources, schools of funding, and families of support, while we parents work daily to save our children from 6-foot cells or 6 feet of dirt faster than we can save them amidst crumbling housing, absent mentorship programs, no parks and recreations, and no vocational opportunities. A system that builds cages faster than it builds futures for our children. That is the real backdrop of this tragedy, speaking as a person who has had students as both victims and defendants, even at the same trial, in this very courtroom, with the same detectives and this very same district attorney. But do not mistake my understanding for unconditional forgiveness. I was here every day of trial. You saw me. I listened to the evidence. I saw how you went looking to hit a lick. I forced myself to look at the photos of Hassan, once so full of life, riddled with bullets, and the mere thought of that takes air out of my lungs. For the rest of my life, I'm never going to forget that. I'll never forget you met up with him earlier that day for $666. $666 specifically. You knew that wasn't nothing but the devil riding your back because you had it bent. But consider this here the reckoning of that, if you have not realized it, because I was sent to tell you that amongst the rest of this. And I do not know, maybe you never had someone in your corner like Hassan had, or maybe you very much did and you ignored the guidance you were given, like how most stories go, but neither of those will absolve you of the basic humanity that you should have exercised, because you knew better and you still chose not to do better. And now here we all are, facing the sheer consequences of your diabolical choices, collectively but not equally. Hassan is gone. You will now spend the rest of your lives behind bars. The sheer senselessness of it all. But I am not here to celebrate your punishment. Like Hassan said, my students know me for quotes and principles, and one of my favorites is that principles are not principles if you pick and choose when to have them. So when I say I would oppose the death penalty, even in this instance, if it were an option, I mean that my principles would not want you dead only because dying would be too easy, and living with these words today for the rest of your life will be much harder. Because truth be told, I personally would only want to kill the parts of you that thought that it was okay to take Hassan's life and ruin yours in the process for a lick. But you will have life in prison to find the words to apologize and make amends. Kids like Hassan taught me who, what, and why I fight through the darkest of moments like this, never forgetting what I found in the light. My kids, whether the ones that sat in my womb for 9 months or sat in my classroom for 9 months, their families, friends, and the future of change and progress I demand to see for us all in this world. It is true, Hassan will not see me graduate or walk this path he encouraged me to follow, but you should damn well know that just as he helped me write this, he will walk me across that stage in May and wherever I go beyond law school. We all may never get to witness him become the fullest extent of the man we all knew he was going to be, but we will see him in the inexplicable moments when we need him most, watching over us, existing beyond his existence within us, all of us better off for having known and felt his infectious spirit. So no, I am not here to change your heart. I am here because Son told me to tell you that I needed to come here so that you wouldn't change mine. That is why I will continue to live, because he cannot. That I will continue to fight through the failures of this system because he would expect nothing less. And that I will love through the hate of what you did, because even if he would not agree with me, he would respect my mind since we stood on business like that. I am here to tell you that I refuse here and now to be crushed by your violence, by the grief you caused, or by the environment that fosters this seemingly never-ending cycle. The only thing that you proved was that taking a good life was easy, and living a life with a worthwhile dream you believed in so much you were willing to give everything in the attempt to see it come to life would mean that we rebels would have to endure the acts of cowards who literally hide in the shadows trying to snuff it out along the way, out of envy or out of jealousy. As I read his letter, I can read it in his voice. And I feel him telling me that real strength is not in taking a life, but in giving it meaning by the lives we touch and the legacies that we leave behind. Then I hear your thoughts that night creeping in, thinking that pulling that trigger as much as you did and the way you did made you feel powerful. But let me close by informing you of a reality. Whatever power you may have felt for that brief moment will forever pale in comparison to the kind of power that people like Hassan had and have. The kind that lights up a room, that lifts people up, that leaves a mark long after they are gone, as you can clearly tell by the outpouring of love here today in this courtroom behind him. And I bet if anything, you envied that loud, unapologetic spirit, which is why you probably chose him. But know this, your violence did not silence him. It merely amplified his echo into eternity, which is why I can stand in the open today holding on to what is left of my humanity like it was armor. Because make no mistake, gentlemen, this right here before you is what a real badass looks like. Not because I am incapable of rage, hate, and dark thought, but because I know that I am far more savage than what you could ever do, and yet it still takes far more strength and courage to love and live fully, even in the face of such devastating L's that would justify all the above. But like I always told my kids, L's can be counted in lessons and not losses, and you choose. And while you have forced the loss, I have chosen the lesson to make me better and not bitter for all of our sakes. Because my work here is not done. Because I believe it is what Hassan and my students and my children would expect of me. Because while rebels bend, we do not break, and I will never allow the breaking of another's humanity to bend me so far that I break from my fucking own. Because Hassan knew one thing for sure and two things for certain. I'd stand 10 toes down alone against the world to hold on to mine, because I have seen the full consequences in the likes of people like you who have lost it. Because Hassan was right. That is what makes me stand out. Because I am Miss Motherfucking G. So I will embody the lesson I used to teach my students. I do not wish you good. I do not wish you bad. I wish you the life you deserve. Because karma is the most patient and ruthless bitch ever, and you are her pupil now. And if history proves correct, she is going to teach you a lesson better than Miss G ever could. So I best protect my peace and my energy for the battles that lay ahead, and just move on out the way and let her get to it. But best believe I'll be catching y'all on the flip side. Rest in peace, Hassanville. I'd rather burn this bitch to the ground than let them have it. To my students, ain't shit changed but the date. I love y'all.